Like riding a bike, boy.
Welcome to episode 149 of Chet and Jon's Reassuringly Finite Gaming Playlist. My name is Chet Roivers. With me, as usual, is John Denton.
As usual.
Over the next indeterminate amount of time, we are going to be going through the list of the 10 games that we've each been playing over the past 7 days. The number 10s are the games that we've been playing the least. The number 1s are the games we've been playing the most. That's it, John. Let's do this.
It's longer than 7 days, though, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, okay. Just for old time's sake, you know.
Just checking. I didn't want to be doing like an illegal list.
Yeah,
so, just had to check. Yeah, my number 10 is probably my number 1. But, that's how it works. It's FIFA. It's FIFA 19. And I've been playing it because I've been playing it with you. Div 1.
Yeah.
Straight in Div 1. It's both a glorious game and an absolute horror show, really. I can't think of any other way of describing it. I think it's the best one that they've done in terms of animation, in terms of how much it feels like football when it works and moves properly and it's not trying to fuck you over. And on the flip side to that, it's scripted hell, and we just subject ourselves to it in the most horrendous way. Although I must say that you're much more controlled on the pitch than you used to be. Far fewer slide tackles, which is good for my blood pressure as we get older. But yeah, like we play every time we play games, we always finish off with what's supposed to be a game of FIFA and ends up being 5. But it is what it is. If you play FIFA, you know the hell. I don't do the Ultimate Team thing. I know you don't, because that just seems to add an extra layer of hell with loot boxes and random number generation and everything like that on top of an already hellish game. So I don't know why people subject themselves to that. But yeah, just even cut up seasons, it's enough to make you tear your hair out.
Yeah, I hate it. I mean, I just it's my number 9. It's a game I hate. Although hopefully after we finish recording this, we'll squeeze in a quick game. I just wish that at some point some journalists will go deep undercover. I mean, deep undercover. I wish they'd be provided with the funds to go away for a few months and really try to get to the bottom of what FIFA is, because I don't know what it is. I don't know why it is the way it is. I don't know how pernicious it is.
So I just had an image of Wesley Impole in like a long trench coat and
trying to pretend he works at but if someone could genuinely get to the bottom of what that, because I mean, FIFA, the organisation, is basically a crime syndicate. EA is. I mean, if someone was to suggest to me that they're even more unscrupulous than they were back when they were being accused of being the most unscrupulous company in history, I'd say that might check out. I don't want to. It seems like it might check out. It seems like an ungodly union, and I want to know more about it. The way things flip on I've used this analogy before, but it's like being at a chess tournament and the grandmaster comes and slaps all the pawns off your board and says, all your soldiers died of plague. Now, if you were really good at chess, you might sit there and think, this is going to be a new challenge. I'm going to figure out how, I'm going to really test myself. I'm going to learn more about the game. I'm going to, that's the kind of person who might play FIFA every day. I just want to play a game of football, and when it fucks you for no reason. Anyway, I don't want to. The reason I put it so high because I don't want to talk about it. I hate it. Somebody go undercover and find out what the hell's going on with it, please, for my sanity. But we'll have a game later.
Yeah, no doubt. That was my 10.
Okay, my number 10 is a game called Hyper Fight Max Battle on Steam. What? Yeah, it's on Steam. We're about 3 weeks away from the launch of One Finger Death Punch 2.
Oh, is that soon?
Yes, it's out I believe beginning of April, I think.
Oh, sweet.
And I heard that there was a demo on Steam, so I went on there and tried to download it, but I have a Mac, and the Mac version doesn't read. I can't use the demo, nor can I download the old version of the first game, which is what I was going to do also. I can't wait for that game. But this was suggested to me, and it's a what's a beat 'em up? Is that like Streets of Rage, or is it like Mortal Kombat?
A Streets of Rage.
Okay,
like a brawler. That type of thing.
So no, it's a fighting game. It's literally like 1v1. It's like Mortal Kombat. So a fighting game, I guess.
Fighting game, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. It's an incredibly simple. It looks like a SNES game. You only have special moves and an evade command. So the first guy you're introduced to has a fireball and a dragon punch and an evade, which involves double tapping a direction, and you're completely invincible when you evade. there's real life in this game. I played it only for about 10 minutes, but I thought it's actually got a genius idea at the centre of it, which is that every round is one hit. You get one hit, and if you fuck it up later on by doing a special move, it takes away any wins that you have. So there's no energy bar, there's just 5 wins. You're working to 5 wins. You get hit once, you get a loss, and if you try and do a dragon punch like 4 times in a match to try and be Flash, you'll lose all of your wins. It's a really, really simple game, but I think it could be really, really, really fun. It's one of those games that you could use to settle a dispute. It's we did that recently when I was away with a load of friends, and someone had to go and buy beer, so we played the Snoop Dogg mode on UFC 3.
Oh yeah.
Where it's 5 strikes and you're out. So it's 5 clean strikes and you lose. It's not dissimilar to that. The AI in single player is awful. You lose and then you continue and then you win. But if you have somebody to play it with, it's a really neat little fighting game. Quite a clever idea, and it's been very well received by all accounts.
What's it called again?
Hyper Fight Max Battle. It's free to play.
Oh, it's free as well?
Yeah, completely free, yeah. It's really neat little game, to be honest.
Is it just on Steam?
As far as I know. I think it didn't really download on... I don't use Steam very much. It didn't download it. It just opened up another pop-up, so it was like a browser game.
Okay. Well, I'm going to get that, and if there's a demo of One Finger Death Punch on Steam for PC as well, I'm going to get that shit too.
Do that, and then buy the full game, because, if a bunch of guys who made several games a month have spent the last few years working on one game, maybe it's going to gleam.
Yes, there's no doubt. Is that just on PC, do we know?
No, it's coming to consoles, but they have no idea when, basically.
All right, for sure.
Yeah.
All right, my number 9, another indie game then. It's Ape Out. I don't know. I know you've heard this because I sent you the trailer.
So the trailer, that's right. Yeah, it looked really cool, and I was disappointed when it wasn't on Xbox.
Yeah, I hope it ends up there, but everything seems to be switching Steam these days for indie games. Just seems to be the way that they can get their money back as much as anything else. If you've not seen it, I'd actually recommend checking out a trailer because it's hard to describe. Basically, it kind of looks like Hotline Miami, but you play as a gorilla, and it's also done. Someone described it as like a Saul Bass art style. I don't know enough about different art styles to really know who that is, but it's a very distinctive and familiar art style. Very like bold shapes, lots of. It's almost like it's all been crayoned in, but it's moving. Like It's been. Yeah, you watch the trailer. It's a better way of describing it, and. You move through like Hotline Miami. There's these bad guys trying to shoot you through every single level, and you obviously have no guns because you're an ape, so you're just trying to grab hold of them, and you can smash them into a wall, and they just like disintegrate into pieces. So it's hilariously violent and cathartic. But the whole thing, every single second of it, whatever you do, every action is constantly soundtracked by this crazy jazz drum soundtrack. It sounds like the movie Whiplash the whole time, and it plays exactly in time to what you're doing. So it's almost a rhythm game. It's not demanding anything of you in terms of your rhythm. You don't have to work to the beat or anything like that, but you're just creating this kind of chaotic melee of music as you bash through these levels. I really like it's split into like 4 main hub. I can't think of a better word than levels, which is then segmented into little sections, and they're like 4 albums. I've only just got to the beginning of the second one. It's one of those games that I wish I'd spent more time with, but as we'll go through the list, there's a bunch of stuff that's been out. It's been real busy. So it's something that I'm going to go back to. But in terms of style, in terms of like artistry, in terms of just an idea, it's really fantastic. It's the type of game that every now and then there's an indie game that comes out, and when there were fewer indie games as well, this seemed to be a bit more prevalent, that really just opened your eyes to what was possible when really creative people get hold of video games, basically.
Yeah.
And it kind of reminds me of something like that, and it plays well as well. It's similar in Hotline Miami in a way that you have to be a little more stealthy than perhaps you'd want to be, because when you are this ape and you can just crush through anything, you just kind of want to jump through and destroy everything. But the enemies have guns. You can only take 3 hits, and you don't even have a health bar. It's just the amount of blood that's pouring out of you that you can kind of tell how much damage you've taken, but you never 100% know. So you have to be really careful, kind of kite enemies around little sections of the environment. And what's interesting is if you hide around a corner, unlike every other top-down game ever, when you hide around a corner, it actually blinds you to what's around that corner, using like a big black shade. So any game that ever has been top-down shooter, you can hide around a corner and see when the enemies are coming, but you can't in this, so you have to be a little more careful, and it's interesting in that respect. It's just really cool. I think it was like 12 quid. I'd imagine it will end up on Xbox and PlayStation, but yeah, real good, perfect thing for the Switch.
They haven't announced whether that's actually going to happen.
I've not seen, but it wouldn't surprise me. It seems to be the way these things go.
Yeah, is it when you're talking about the soundtrack? Is it like generated music, or is it just a load of samples and noises?
It's generated as you play. So
does it sound like music?
Yes, it's all live sampled drums and yeah, it sounds incredible.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, I saw the trailer. I was like, that's probably going to get bought. And then you said it's not on Xbox. But David Turner, one-time presenter of this program, told me that it has a few very, very good ideas, and then it just milks them for a while. He seemed to be a bit further in, and he felt that it wasn't really sustaining.
True, but he also hasn't slept for like 4 months. So
very good point. Very good point.
Knows?
Yeah, very good point. Yeah, I hope to play that one day. My number 9 is FIFA 19. Fuck that game. We've spoken about it.
Oh, so it's me again.
Yeah.
All right. My number 8 then is Piku Niku, another indie game on the Switch. Another one from Devolver, actually. Both of these from Devolver. This came out a little while before, about maybe 6 weeks ago, something like that. Again, another one I sent you the trailer of. Do you remember this one? It was the little weird cartoon with the crazy music, like a little red ball with long legs that just goes through like a madcap cartoon world.
Loco Roco, it looked like, didn't it?
There's elements of Loco Roco, but it's a little bit more. Weirdly, there's elements of it that remind me of the Eric Andre show, and it's just mad and random. Obviously, it's not as like graphic as that show can be, but it's a little bit of that, a little bit of it's nothing about it is nasty. It's, let the kids play, absolutely, but at the same time there's a little bit anarchic, and the humour is spot on. It genuinely made me laugh a lot, and it's just one of those games that like you'll carry out an action in the world. It's like a 2D sort of platform puzzle type thing. You carry out an action in the world, and then the result of that action will be a surprise quite often. Like you walk into a little secret thing, and then you fall through, crash through the floor, and then you're in this weird little kitchen, and you look around, and then you move, and then what looks like a pile of rubbish in the corner is actually a character and starts yelling at you for smashing up its table and stuff like that. It's just gags the whole time, basically. And again, it's like Ape Out is a game that I wanted to and want to spend more time with and get through to the end of, but I just haven't had the time. But I've got those two sitting there on the Switch, waiting to get back to. And Devolver's had a strong start to the year, and they do great stuff, man. They are one of the best publishers out there, really.
Mm-hmm. What was it called?
Piku Niku, Pikuniku.
Is that Switch only?
It's Switch and PC, but I don't know if it is anymore, but it was actually free with Twitch Prime on PC. So if you've got Amazon Prime, Twitch Prime, I don't know if it still is. They do like a free game a month or a free couple of games a month. So if you've got PC and Amazon Prime, check if it's still available.
It sounds like it should have an amazing soundtrack.
It does. It's like, kind of, it's similar to the Yoshi games, just all over the place, slightly discordant, brilliant. Manic. Yeah, that's what you want.
Okay, speaking of discordant, my number 8 is a game called Lumines. Lumines?
It's Lumines to everyone but you.
Okay, right, Lumines, on the Xbox One X. I bought this when it came out last year on PS4, also on Switch. When was that? It was last year, wasn't it? Late last year?
Was it the enhanced edition of the first game?
That's right, yeah.
Yeah, I've got that on Switch.
Yeah, I bought it and then I hadn't. I played it a bit and then I kind of forgot about it. I've owned every version of that game. I think I bought it at launch on the PSP. I bought the Xbox 360 Lumines Live, and then has there been others? There was one on the Vita, wasn't there? Anyway,
there's the Vita one, yeah.
I've bought every single one of them, so I've played that game for hundreds of hours, and I started playing it recently last week, and it is a masterful, wonderful game. But something about it smacked me square in the face when I was playing it last week or the week before, and I was just absolutely stunned. I can't believe I hadn't noticed it. The music is fucking awful.
Yep.
It's awful. No one said that. I feel like I'm like Charlie in the Chocolate Factory situation. If I went to Mizuguchi and said the music's shit in Lumines, he'd say, "Oh, no one's had the guts to tell me. Here's a golden ticket." I don't know what I'm talking about. It's twee discordant.
It does sound like that, actually.
It's just a racket of twee noises. It's just like all put into a blender and just horrible, irritating samples.
It got through on that first tune, that sort of like pseudo Chemical Brothers-y first tune. the first lev, and then you just got a pass for that. But beyond that,
it's just a load of just
yeah. Oh, that's the worst one. That's the one that kills me every time.
It's twee. It's awful. I couldn't believe it. So for the first time I stopped and I thought, fuck this, I muted it.
Oh, you don't like that one that goes, shake your body, shake your body.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I've got further than you have in the game, and it somehow it gets even worse later on. But I thought, fuck this, I don't need to do this anymore. I muted the TV and I stuck my own music on, and I absolutely obliterated my high score. So I was just like, did they... I mean, it's almost as if they put it in there to be distracting, because it is distracting, and I didn't realise it. I kind of just accepted, it's Mizuguchi. I suppose this isn't too bad. And all the time it was annoying the piss out of me, and I didn't realise it. So turn the music off. It's horrible. But Luminous is an amazing game. If you haven't played it, just get hold of it, play it, master it. Try and beat my high scores, fail.
Yeah, no, I'm not getting anywhere near your scores in a game like that. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah, great. What a game, though.
Yeah, I forgot I could have put this on the list, the Tetris thing. I don't know if it's on your list, the Tetris one.
On Switch.
Royale. Yeah,
no,
I mean, I'm fucking useless at it, but it's a fucking cool idea. But I'm nowhere near good enough at Tetris to get anywhere on it. But yeah,
fair enough.
And I've also played Luminous, so that could have been on my list. My list's a joke, but what the hell are we doing? We just decided to do a podcast. But,
exactly.
All right, my number 7, I didn't put numbers on my list, is Crackdown 3, I guess, which I played a bit of, and it just seemed exactly like Crackdown 1, but with slightly better graphics, with a weird Terry Crews intro, which went on far too long.
Ages, yeah.
Yeah, and then an awful tutorial, and then you get into the game, and it was like, this is fine, but it was a tough one, because it's out at the same time as a bunch of other stuff, and then some other stuff that I've been reviewing as well, which we'll talk about later in the list, and I just haven't really gone back to it. I think maybe if I'd been playing it with somebody else, it would have been more enjoyable, but it's not that it wasn't enjoyable. I just felt like, well, I've done this. I've literally done this game before. I enjoyed it back then. I don't really have time to play that now. I played the multiplayer as well briefly, and that's fucking diabolical. I mean, they were clever to put that as a separate launcher, so you can just delete that shit so you don't accidentally turn it on. Utter crap. But considering how much they were raving about that as well, with all the destructible city and everything like that, the cloud-based stuff when they announced the game. But it just feels like a bit of a relic. But at the same time, I've not really put the hours in to see if it does anything differently to the first game. But I certainly didn't hate what I played. There's something moreish about collecting the orbs and just slowly making your way through the city. But again, I feel like I'd maybe need another person to really get the most out of it.
You're probably right. I have played and completed Crackdown 3, so it's higher on my list. I'll talk about it in a little bit.
So this is. I was going to say. I thought you were just going to palm it off to me again. I've got to do this whole show.
No, I've still got to do my number 7. My number 7 is Shadow of the Tomb Raider on Xbox One X. I played the campaign months ago, whenever the game came out last year. I think it's comfortably the best of the 3 games. I don't really understand the critical response. I think it's just absolutely marvellous. Although it is very much the 3rd game in a trilogy, so it's slightly stupider. It's much more reliant on action and set pieces than some of the earlier games. And it's, if you were to chart a trajectory of Lara Croft's sanity, she basically behaves like a crazy person in the 3rd one. But I thought it was genuinely quite brilliant, and I'm more. It's the kind of game that I'm more it's more tailored to me anyway. But the world is spectacular. The way they've created the world, the way it looks. I mean, before I played Metro Exodus last month, whenever that was, this was comfortably the best looking game I'd ever seen. And it kind of snakes around on itself and folds in, and you go on these amazing excursions around cliffs and waterfalls, and it's stunning to look at. And then you come back to the end of it and you're like, oh fuck, I'm here. And you look at the map and you think, wow, they've really taken care to design this.
I mean, that sounds like Dark Souls, which is like lauded as the pinnacle of game design in terms of level design. I thought it was absolutely ingenious, and just to go around, just to move around it after you've completed it. And the reason I've been doing that is because my girlfriend's bought a couple of the DLC packs that they've brought out, which consists of like a tomb that's playable cooperatively for the first. I don't know if any of the other. I don't think you can play co-op in any of the other games. I'm pretty sure this is new. And it also actually, weirdly enough, those. This is a stupid question. Did you play the Baba Yaga DLC from the last game? You haven't even played that, have you? No, I've only played the very, very first 5 minutes of the last game.
Okay. the DLC actually sort of embellishes and enriches the story a little bit. So for the people who didn't like the story, it's actually it benefits the story. But those little extra bits that they give you, it's £2.99 or so, I think, if you buy them individually. It's great. You do a really, really involved tomb, some cutscenes, some story, and then you can do them in a multitude of different ways cooperatively. And if your friend hasn't got the DLC, they can still play it without having to download it. It's great. I think it's a fantastic... Everything about it's terrific. I think it's if you've got Game Pass especially, and I've been telling you to play it, but you feel the need to play the second one first, which I think is a mistake.
Yeah, that's just me though. Like, I struggle generally with coming into a series of any kind, and especially considering I've got the second one sitting there. I've finished the first one. I've started the second one. It would be difficult for me to jump onto the third one. Less so now. It is on Game Pass, and I still got my subscription for that. So that does change things. It's crazy that it's already on Game Pass.
I know.
It's tanked.
Yeah,
but,
it's a shame.
I do intend to. I really did intend to get through those games. Actually, I set myself a little plan, and with another game that I'm going to talk about later on the list, and then because it was a quiet period, and then it's just been crazy again. So. And a stealth launch of something nuts as well, which we'll talk about later. Yeah. But I do want to, because the good thing about them, I mean, I put on that second one, it still looks absolutely ridiculous, so it doesn't feel, old, even though it's a few years old now. It still looks incredible, so I think I'll enjoy bashing through them. Yeah. But I definitely intend to before the end of the year get through them. But it's hard, isn't it? It's too much comes out. It
is. I mean, it is. But I mean, I'd say to anybody who's in the same boat as you, Shadow of the Tomb Raider, I really think it is superb. And it has in it the best half-hour section of any game I've played for years. There's a half-hour where the game essentially goes a little bit rogue, and it does something that I think many fans of Lara Croft would think was a mistake. I thought it was justified. I thought it was really interesting, and it's sustained excitement for like half an hour. And I was telling people there's a bit in the game that I can't... I mean, it's been 10 years since I've had a sustain... when a game's so good for such a prolonged period of time, you don't even know what to do with yourself. You have to get explained.
No, you just sort of punching,
Yeah, exactly.
And you can only really get that from single-player games.
That's
you can't
true.
really get it from multi because you can't do that, so you get shot.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's certainly nothing sustained like that. Yeah. But it's a fantastic game. I think it's underrated, but and the DLC is great. So I say buy the bastard, or at least play it on Game Pass, for goodness sake.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, well, intend to. But hopefully that'll get a few more people who are listening to this playing it. Why not?
I hope so. I love that game.
All right, my number 6, 7, 6. Have I done too many on my list? I've done too many on my list.
No, it's not. That was my number 7. So you're number 6.
Hold on, let me 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Fucking idiot! But I know you're going to talk about one of these definitely. So I'll just delete it and then we can talk about it then.
Oh, so you actually have got one too many?
Yeah, I'm a fucking idiot.
What are you erasing?
Are you going to talk about Anthem?
No, it's not on my list.
Okay. Are you going to talk about Far Cry?
No.
You good?
I mean, the thing is, I know we said that we talk about the games in the last week. That was a lie, but yes. I've kept it within like 2 weeks.
Okay, I haven't.
Okay, that's fine. I mean, but yeah. So if there's anything that, the one game that we definitely know 100% we've both played in the last 2 weeks, just delete that and then we'll talk about it when I get to it.
Okay, well I'll do that then.
Right, profesh.
We haven't done this for a while. Can you tell? All right. So yeah, then we'll talk about this now after that whole drama. But Far Cry New Dawn, which I played, probably about a month and a bit ago. I mean, budget sequel to the worst Far Cry.
Comfortably,
I think 5's probably the worst Far Cry. Yeah,
easily the worst. Yeah.
And then budget sequel that. Like, I think I gave it 3 stars when I reviewed it because there was still, like, the core basic gameplay, taking down an encampment. It was like, it's still okay, it's still good, it's still fun to shoot the bad guys, slide underneath the thing, chuck the grenade, all that sort of stuff. And I was like, well, I can't slate it too much in that type of format. However, this isn't that type of format, this is our type of format, so I can be much more critical.
Yeah.
And it just felt like it was just... It's just nothing. I mean, it had to be budget just because even though the game is longer than many games that are full price, just because they did fuck all. I mean, they did this new like post-apocalyptic setting supposedly on the same map as Far Cry 5, and it just amounts to people being basically spray painted in fluorescent colours and like fucking shit like turkeys being bright colours for no reason. And then apart from that, it's just exactly the same game with nothing in it. The only redeeming features really was probably, I didn't mind the main enemies, the two twins. They were kind of charismatic in that classic Far Cry mold. They were kind of cool. And there's a base building element which seems to be in every Ubisoft game now, so you just level up the different parts. It's just a kind of an elaborate menu really, but you just level up the different parts of your base. But just going out into the world, I was just like, I remember when Far Cry 2 came out, and it was a revolution of systems and all the different things, and the way you construct, and it would construct stories within the world just through systems, and that game is ancient now. And then when 3 came out, and it had such breadth, and while it lost a lot of what 2 had, it also added so much more, and the incredible range of activities, and plus the quality of the storytelling, at least for the first half of that game. And then 4 I didn't like as much, but still it was, had an amazing setting and everything like that. And then they just drove 5 off a cliff. And then you've got a real nasty microtransaction model in Far Cry New Dawn. It's completely unnecessary. Bad. I mean, really genuinely feels like in order to craft the stuff that I need, I'm going to have to pay extra money or grind. And I'm like, no, this is like, I can handle there being those type of microtransactions that some people like to supposedly, or I assume, will spend money on to get through a game a bit faster, a single player game. I wish they weren't in there, but like if that's what it takes to keep a studio open, whatever, like they're not so offensive. But this feels like it's actually informing and changing the game's design, and it's creepy in a really unpleasant way. And I think stuff like that gets pushed back against enough for it not to be. I can't see it creeping into too many single player games at this level, because people are they're really not into that, especially when you've got games like Fortnite that do so much in-game microtransactions, but it's all cosmetic. So when it starts informing the game design, it's so ugly. And in a game like this anyway, it's just it's not a good game. It's really not a good game. But at the same time, you have to just be slightly objective. Is a stupid word when it talks about gaming, but like compared to when you've been playing games for 30 years like we have plus, it's still very functional. If you were in a coma for 25 years and the last game you played was on the NES, and then you played this, you'd think it was the most unbelievable thing you'd ever seen. So you have to keep a level head slightly, but in the context of everything that's happened especially in this series, and where open world games are right now, how lazy it feels compared to it's just the same game. I don't like you. It's not lazy. I'm sure everybody worked fucking hours crunching this thing out in a short space of time. It's mentally lazy to have created this game in the first place. It's lazy from a publisher point of view. Yeah.
To be honest, I think because I bought it at launch and I thought, what the hell? I was in one of those moods where I just wanted to spend money, and I just bought a game and then I sat down with it. I mean, I really didn't like Far Cry 5. I think what you said about the twins, I think they're more compelling antagonists than anybody in Far Cry 5.
Yeah.
But I think it is just the overwhelming laziness of everything. I just thought, I'm not going to sit here and play this again. It's the same map, and the things that you've added are so. I mean, it's basically the same game, but not as interesting. And Far Cry 5 wasn't interesting. I remember how certain I was that I'm not playing this. I only played it for like 2 hours, I think.
Right.
So, yeah, piss as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, it doesn't really pick up. I mean, mercifully, there's no repeated getting captured and doing the same weird thing to a building over and over again, like in 5. I don't know what the hell that was all about. But, yeah, I think it's probably a better game than 5, actually. Weirdly, it's a little more focused, but that's not saying much.
No, they have to overhaul that series, because I'm not. Well, I mean, I don't
know what they were going to do. Yeah,
they have to do something. I mean, but then again, if I was going to say if New Dawn sold, but then I saw on the dashboard of my Xbox it was on sale for like almost half price the other day.
Yeah, I don't think it did. Yeah,
2 weeks or something.
It's 3 maybe. Yeah, I don't think it did well. But I think they need to go back to they had far more complicated, interesting, interactive systems in 2.
The second one, yeah.
Yeah, and that's years old. So, I mean, I think that's the only way they can really save the series. I mean, I'm sure they could still sell copies of another one if they did an interesting setting and all that sort of stuff, but I can't be fucked to do, the exact same mechanics again. It's been the same mechanics since 3 now.
Since 3, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, rubbish. Not very disappointing. Okay, my number 6 is Battlefield 5, which is a game I don't like very much. Has never felt right to me. When we played the beta months and months ago, I said this feels like a game that was devised in a boardroom. And then sometime between then and the game launching, I thought, do you know what, I've got to buy it. It's Battlefield. I'll find some brilliance in it. And then we had the 10-hour EA Access trial, and midway through that, I said, I'm not going to buy this heap of crap. It doesn't feel like a Battlefield game. The guns feel weightless. The way they've taken... It doesn't feel like a team game anymore. The time to kill is too quick. And even the way they dealt with that, did you hear they doubled the amount of damage you can take, and the time to kill got doubled, and there was outrage. So
really?
Yeah, there was an uproar. So then they said, "Oh no, it's fine. We put it back. Sorry, we put it back." Which just sounds like people in suits saying, "Oh, we don't want to offend you," because DICE changed these games throughout their lives in perpetuity. The next step would have been, okay, let's try some middle ground. That was too extreme. We'll go here. You know, that's what DICE do to their games. This has kind of stayed in the same place as far as I can say. For all of their sort of updates that they do, it still feels like the same game from months ago. However, I wanted to try co-op, which came out a month or so ago. Absolutely unremittingly god awful. You can't even begin to imagine how basic it is. Piece of a map from the multiplayer. It's just Horde, but it's badly done. It's completely uninspired. But now we're all waiting for what's it called? Firestorm.
Firestorm, which is Monday, right?
Is it that soon? I had no.
25th. So it's 20th now.
Can they do something truly interesting with Battle Royale? I'm not sure, but I'm looking forward to trying it again. I mean, do you know I don't know what they're doing. Rush came out for it last week, 2 weeks ago or last week. They're like, "Hey, come play the beloved Rush, one of the quintessential Battlefield modes for 2 weeks only." And then they've taken it off already, or it's going off. And I'm like, "What are they doing?" And it's not even on all the maps. I don't understand.
The way that EA is releasing their games at the moment, and it's absolutely maddening, and I can't compartmentalize it. So I feel like I can't get invested in any of their games, because it's like I don't know when they're coming out. I don't know which bits are coming out when.
Yeah.
As shit as FIFA is, at least FIFA's out. Here it is.
Yeah, right.
It's all there. You know, they'll add stuff and whatever. But we'll talk about another one in a minute. Battlefield was the worst. It's like, this is coming in, and then 3 weeks this is coming, and it's like, this isn't a free-to-play game. Just release it when it's done, all in one pack. I can't be thinking about Battlefield for the next 6 months while I'm trying to get on with my life and what might be coming out. Got stuff to do.
That's what I mean. Is Firestorm going to be so great that everyone's going to get on board? I think that's highly unlikely.
Yeah, I mean, I've got it sitting there on my hard drive, so I will play some Firestorm. But I played like one game of the multiplayer, and it did just nothing for me. Absolutely nothing. Again, but it's a problem as much as anything when you're getting into number 5 of a series which isn't really number 5, it's more like number 9, and it's like, unless they're really changing everything and revolutionising it, then I don't know. This just felt like a watered down version of the last one, which was a better version of the previous games with some new ideas and a different feel, but still very much the same game at a fundamental level. What more can you do? And then Battle Royale comes along generally and shakes everything up for multiplayer. Plus games like Rainbow Six with all the different classes, Overwatch, etc. So it's just, obviously Battlefield has classes, don't get me wrong, but it's a bit different. Not heroes. I don't know. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see on Monday. I'll give it a go.
Yeah. Well, I mean, me too. And Battlefield will always be on my hard drive in some version. But I really think they've got so much about this wrong, and it's very, very disappointing. I'd rather play Battlefield 1. So yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty
all right.
shame.
Well, yeah. Another disappointing EA game coming up next, and it's Anthem, which I certainly don't want to. I don't want to be part of the gang that's just like beating down on this game and has been beating down on it for ages. Had an awful beta/demo, whatever you want to call it, which just didn't work. And I remember when it didn't work so much, I just gave up, and it was like, well, just wait for the game to come out. And there are elements that I really like about the game, like the opening tutorial/opening story mission. I mean, it looks amazing. The javelins feel great to play. I was kind of compelled by the story. Didn't quite know what was going on, but it's like, when it's BioWare, you're like, I'll definitely give you the benefit of the doubt. I'll listen, which is rare, to be honest. I mean, if I'm going to choose to listen to what people are talking about in the game, they either have to be very good performances, or I have to be giving them my time, because A, I've got no attention span, and B, like, we've been playing games long enough to know that a lot of them have terrible scripts. And then you get into the game itself, and everybody said this already, so I'm kind of retreading old ground, but there is a huge identity crisis with that game, whereby it is the co-op loot shooter, another one we'll talk about later, and obviously Destiny being the most obvious one. And those games are played by people talking the whole time in real life. You're chatting, you're saying stupid shit like we do, you're all giving out directions that actually seriously when you're trying to win a difficult fight. So at the same time in the game, there's constant VO in the missions like there would be in a single-player game. That's hard enough to listen to when you're playing a single-player game. Impossible in this. And then you've got the ridiculous stuff where after every single mission, you go back to this very slow-moving Fort Tarsis, as it's called, basically a weird street where everybody kind of stands still, and you go and talk to a bunch of people, and it's like, I thought, okay, I want to go and talk to this guy, and then you got Jay chatting to Zeno about some other thing in my ear, and I'm like, well, I can't hear what this person's saying. I don't really care what this person's saying, but I might as well listen. I'd rather just be chatting to the friends. And so it's just, and then we all go, we all done our bits where we talk to everyone, and then we'll come and meet up and then do a mission. So you've got the identity crisis for one, and then you've got the situation where I think this is one of the worst things about the game, is that it does an appalling job of allowing you to do anything purposeful with your progress if you're not in your own instance. If you're not the party leader, for example, we were going ahead doing missions that we thought that we'd done with friends, going back onto our own world and realising that we had to repeat them. Obviously, then they didn't want to come back and repeat them with us, or we didn't want to force them to do that. And then you're scared to jump into the game the next day with your friends in case you do 10 missions, you play the game for like 6 hours, have a mammoth session, and realise, you missed the interim mission between the last one you'd done on your own and the ones you're doing now, and you have to do them all again. I mean, that's just, it's abominable. So that was the point where I'm like, I don't want to jump in with them. I saw the boys were on, and I'm like, I don't want to jump in because I can't be fucked to do these missions again, even though you probably would end up doing them again anyway. When you're doing them again with the aim of loot or gear or whatever it is, fine. That's just kind of how these games work. But when you're doing them again because you have to, because you're not getting anything new for it, I haven't got time for that. Plus, the game was very, very appealing for a short space of time in terms of how it felt, moved, everything like that. I thought it felt good, and then I don't know, it just fell off a cliff for me. It just dropped off. I was like, I'm just getting nothing out of the shooting here. And then you start reading the stories about how the loot system is completely broken. The level 1 weapons are actually more powerful than the final weapons. I started reading about how the end game items are just nothing. I, in my own mind, may have kind of gone off the whole idea of playing a game just to get more items to continue to play a game anyway. That was something that's never really worked with my brain anyway. Destiny changed that slightly, and we'll talk about another game later. So yeah, that was that really for Anthem, and it kind of made me wish it was a single-player game that was, or even a co-op game where you could just go through, experience a story, enjoy those javelins, and it was nothing like Destiny at all. And it was more like a BioWare game. And I don't know, and I just don't know what's going on at EA at the moment. They're all over the place.
Yeah, it's really weird. Also, one of our friends tried to join two of our friends who'd been smashing it non-stop, and apparently it was they haven't got the levelling right, so he was just having to hang back and not enjoy the game he'd spent £60 on because he wanted to play with his friends, and they were having to do all the combat because he couldn't make any difference. I mean, it is an absolute mess. I mean,
it's clearly unfinished. It's clearly not ready. It needs another year, and it just does. And fair enough, if they can't afford to do that, then you've got to make a call from a business point of view. But then it comes down to questions of mismanagement, all sorts of things, communication. I know they changed the project leads a few times, all that sort of stuff. So bottom line is, when you charge a lot of money for a game and then it starts, so the stories about it potentially bricking PS4s, apparently it didn't actually happen, all that stuff, but bottom line, it was doing some, you don't want your PS4 being turned all the way off, and then when you turn it back on, it does that thing where it yells at you for not turning it off right. You don't want a game causing that regularly. It's like, no, I really don't appreciate that happening. I'm pretty sure that's what killed my old PS4, that happening too much.
So what? People have come out and said that never occurred.
Well, they did some independent research and said it didn't actually brick, because that was the story, that it was genuinely bricking PS4s, and I think maybe it was getting to the point where you had to do like the hard reset. Right. But it's like, that's better. Obviously, it's better, but that's not good. That's not a good situation to be in. So I don't know. Like, obviously, maybe they had to get it out before end of fiscal, but that's not the consumer's fault. So don't put the blame on them. And also, yeah, another one, releasing it in a staggered release, all these different versions. The people who paid extra money to play it early didn't get the day one patch until it came out for everybody. So you're essentially playing a worse version of the game, having paid extra for. I mean, disastrous.
Mm-hmm. And if you pre-ordered to play the beta, that didn't work. So, yeah. I mean, there were 2 missions early on that I did with friends when we were all on the level pegging, and I think I texted you and I texted a couple of other people and said, "This is brilliant," because they were like, at first I thought this is exciting, it works, and then it all just fell off a cliff. Partially, I think for me, because the 2 friends of ours who were always going to buy it, were always going to play it an obscene amount, who were say that they love it. They from almost from day one, from like the first week, they were talking to me and telling me all of the things that were wrong with it, and I said I wouldn't. Once you're stuck in that loop, and they're all about these kind of games.
Yeah,
I don't want to fall into that trap and just know you're playing a shit game that really needs to be fixed and might not. I mean, I don't know what they're going to do with it. It's the kind of game that can't ever realistically go on EA Access because they don't sell it, all the DLCs free. You should imagine. So how? I don't know. It'd be interesting to see what they do with that game because it really does even now seem like...
Well, I can imagine if everything worked right, they could go to town on cosmetics for your Javelin and all that sort of stuff and sell shitloads of that, but they've got way too much to fix before they can ever go down.
Yeah, exactly. But then again, we've said in the past, I know we did, when this podcast, we've said, but years ago, I don't think this game will ever work. And, Master Chief Collection is the first one that jumps to mind. We both said that's never going to work. And now it works like a dream.
That's crazy that they managed to fix that. It took them so long.
When they add Reach, it will probably destroy everything. And it just will never work again. But fair play to them. So maybe Anthem is a great game in waiting, but I'm certainly not going to try it anytime soon.
No, me neither.
So that was your 6?
That's my 6, yeah.
Okay. My number 5 is Apex Legends, but I should imagine that's higher on your list, so we can wait for you.
I did only do 10. I did only do 10. Twist. Oh, no, I did. No, I've got 10 now. So that was my...
That was your 6?
That was my 5.
So that
Far
should have
Cry
been
was
your
my
6.
6.
Okay. I can't believe how badly this has gone.
But I've said FIFA, Ape Out, Pika Crackdown, Far Cry.
Okay.
Anthem. So I've done 6.
Have I fucked up?
You fucked up.
No, I think you fucked up, to be honest.
No, because I've done 6.
I think it's the guy and give it... Because my number 8... No, my number 9...
You sound very convincing. It was obviously my fault.
Well, look, all I know is that my number 5, whatever number you're on, is Apex Legends. I know that it will be higher on your list, I should imagine, so we can get to it when you get to it.
Oh, so I've got to talk again. All right.
I talked a little bit there, you know what I mean?
Yeah, thank you for that. All right, my number 4 then, to break everything, is Resident Evil 2 remake on Xbox One. Xbox One X, in fact, and a beautiful looking game it is too. I mean, I don't have too much other than huge praise for this. It really is absolutely fantastic. Again, just because of the proliferation, I should say, of releases, I've not been able to go back and play through probably the second half of the first campaign. Which is a shame, but it's 100% going to happen. But even from what I have played, which is a good sort of 4 hours or something like that, it's stunning, to be honest. Resident Evil 2 is an all-time classic for me. Seminal game as a 15-year-old, something like that, I think. That came out. No problem. And then, in terms of a remake, I mean, the original Resident Evil remake was incredible, but now has definitely aged itself. But this, in terms of bringing it to modern tech, using their new RE engine, genuinely making it feel, well, certainly look and move and have the production values of a AAA modern game, but still very much feeling like an old school Resident Evil game, structured in, this is basically the same game, it's still structured in the same way. And it's kind of nice to go back to that old survival horror rhythm of, slowly unlocking a mansion, in this case a police station, bit by bit, finding the thing that you need to get through to and then you can open that bit on the other side, and then you get back to the other side of the building. But having that with the you could call it the Resident Evil 4 style of gameplay, but it feels different. It's the over the shoulder with the fine aiming and everything like that, but it's less frantic and manic than Resi 4 and 5 and 6. Everything feels far more threatening. It's genuinely scary at times. It's scarier than it used to be, obviously, because it used to just look like a bunch of triangles, but the fact that you don't have the old school tank controls and everything like that, never mind that back in the day, just kind of accepted that that's what it was to play this crazy game with the rendered backgrounds, and there was basically revolutionary at the time, even though it was obviously inspired by Alone in the Dark. But anyway, honestly, in terms of remake, Capcom's they've been on one recently, ever since Monster Hunter World dropped. Apart from that Marvel vs. Capcom game, which I think is quite good. Anyway, I'm rambling. Resident Evil 2, the remake, it's just amazing. I mean, in so many ways, it's a 10 just because you can't really find fault with it. It's a stunning preservation and reimagination of one of their finest games historically. It plays like an absolute dream. It looks stunning on Xbox One X. It's unsettling. It's scary. It's very much a video game. It's a real triumph. A real triumph, and I can't wait to finally go back to it once this storm has died down a little bit and give it the time it really deserves. And fair play to Capcom for sticking with it and doing right by it.
What are as a percentage? What's the likelihood of you completing it?
98.
Oh, okay, fair enough. All right,
yeah. It's not that long as well. I know I could probably do it in an evening to get through to the end of the A campaign, and then I can do the B campaign as well, which is like playing it again, but it changes certain things with the other character. But definitely in terms of the A campaign, that's happening 100%.
So is that similar to the original?
In terms of the structure of it, yes. Okay. But it's the way it plays is completely different, because it plays like a more modern Resident Evil, but even a more modern version of that, but a much more intense, tinged with dread, genuinely scary. Yeah, it's a stunner. Honestly, it's a stunner. I know you'd love it. I know you would.
Yeah, one day I will definitely get. I'm going to try.
It's hard, though, isn't it?
It's damn near impossible, Led. Okay, well, my number 4 is a game called Rico. Yeah, you have heard of this, I think, because we spoke about it last week or so.
Yes.
I found it on the Xbox store, and before I went to watch the trailer, before the trailer had finished, I bought it. It's a first-person shooter. I don't know whether this is the tagline, but on a lot of menus, there's tips sometimes, the loading screen, there's tips, and then there's a phrase that keeps coming up, kick doors, shoot men, and that sums up the game. That's all that it is. You kick doors, and it's basically the breach sequences from Modern Warfare, or indeed the first Black Ops, the Call of Duty bit where you go through a door, everything goes slow motion, you have a few seconds to headshot everybody.
Yeah.
It's that over and over and over again. It's kind of halfway. Do you remember when at Summer of Arcade on Xbox 360, that was kind of the height of indie games? There was indie games, and then there was they brought out these polished, really slick, really good, oftentimes indie games, and they appeared to be at the forefront of something. This game is half, in terms of a modern version of that, it's half really polished and slick, and half an Xbox Live indie game that was never finished. I like the stupidity of it. It starts off with a cutscene where you're being talked to by I think she's from the British Secret Service, and she said, it's a dystopia, crime's got out of control, and time's really short, so prosecutions take ages, we haven't got the time, so just go and kill everybody. So we'll talk about this in reference to another game that we're going to talk about later. The unpredictable AI is mad, and I think it works in the game's favour. So you see all manner of weird shit happen. I shot a guy in the balls, he flew into the ceiling. People, sometimes enemies run away from you and then they sort of disappear and come back later. Sometimes they get stuck in walls. It's just it's complaints, I think, legitimate complaints that actually end up making the game better. The enemies also don't feel three-dimensional. It's like a load of cardboard cutouts coming towards you sometimes. So when you want the game to really excel is when you see 3 of these hobbling weirdos coming towards you and you sort of try and headshot all 3 of them. When you try and do something like that, the game gets confused, and oftentimes you don't get any damage on anyone. So you're working around flaws a lot of the time, but the unpredictability of it just made it really work for me. And the enemies are funny. It's one of those games where the enemies are just amusing. They make weird noises and they scream weird things. And some look, like obese people who should, they're too fat to walk around. There's an NPC who looks like you.
Nice.
There's an NPC who looks like Gary Rhodes, the old celebrity chef.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes you breach the room and they're standing in they look like having a tea party together. It's just I've laughed so many times because of the bad AI, and in a game like this, it's also randomly generated. It's like you just go into a series of rooms. It's also co-op, which means that. This is the difficult part because all of the levels are just made at random as you start the game. There are some that you can access with codes, and then the other ones are just like, as far as I can tell, just randomly generated on the fly. What you want when you're playing on co-op is for there to be more levels where you can go into the same room at the same time, because you press a bumper and a countdown will appear on both of your doors so you know when to breach.
Right. But
the maps are it's the same backgrounds, the same doors. You don't really know what leads into where. Unless you study the map beforehand, which you're not going to do, you can't really take it. The game would have been better if when you had a co-op partner, it was more inclined to build levels that had multiple points of entry. It's also... I don't know whether this is the case, but I failed. The campaign is just basically a bulletin board where you make your way across it. It's just, it might as well be a list of rooms that you go into and kick down doors and shoot people. For some reason, it's so difficult, it carries over everything. So if you finish a level with 1 health and then start the next one and then you die, it's game over. It wipes all of your progress. It's like the tower on Mortal Kombat. I don't know why they've made it so difficult, but... I got to the final level of a case, they call it, and if you find a bomb in a room, occasionally you'll find a bomb and they'll say, defuse the bomb, and there's another one somewhere, you better find that before it blows up. I ran around. It's meant to be in the vicinity, right? I ran into all these and I was almost dying. I was trying and I couldn't find the bomb. The bomb went off and then it's like, yeah, all your progress is gone. I was like, I just spent an hour on this. You just killed me because... And I think because of the number of times I've seen vital weapons and health that's behind a wall that's been randomly generated that I can't get to. I'm like, I need that, and I can't get to it because the level's been built like in a fucked way. It wouldn't surprise me if that other bomb was built into a box somewhere and I couldn't find it. That's possible. I'm not saying that that's definitely what happened, but it's one of those games where there are so many kinks in it that you just think this could be way more fucked than I realise. Yeah, I don't know what to say. It's the same thing over and over again, and I never stop finding it funny. It costs £14 or so on the Xbox store. So it's on Switch as well, and it's on PS4. I assume it's on PC. Am I going to get my £14 worth out of it? Yeah, I mean, almost certainly. It's going to be one of those games that's just really fun to stick on, and it's funny to stick a pad in someone's house and do it on split screen co-op. The physics are amusing. It's just funny. I mean, I don't know if I can recommend it. It's funny. Watch the trailer, and that should tell you all you need to know. Is shooting people in the head.
I do fancy it, especially on co-op. Yeah. I like the idea if it's randomly generated. That means you can sit there and kind of have a run on it, and it's going to be different every time.
Yeah. And the enemies are amusing. I mean, I can't stress that enough. I mean, I was just cracking up at it. And sometimes you kick the doors, they fly off the hinges. It's just a game that I say is fun despite itself, and the unpredictability of it, especially when you're playing on hard and you're trying to stay alive and get through the last room, I think made it better, which we'll talk about in relation to another game in a bit, I should imagine.
Okay, all right. So, yeah, before I think we go into a bunch of games that we've both played, my number 3, that was my number 4 before I delete the game, is Yakuza 0.
Oh.
I haven't actually played this for ages, but this is the first Yakuza game that I'd ever played. Apart from, actually, that's not true, I played that zombie one, but it was awful. Right. But, yeah, I bought this in a sale. It was super cheap, it was like £9 or something like that, and it had been sitting on my hard drive forever. And just one day I was trying to basically, I do that sometimes, and I was going through my PlayStation just trying to clear some of these games, basically trying them and going, nah, I should never have bought that, just so it's out of my mind. Do you know what I mean? Just like almost like a house clearing thing with my own brain. Yeah. But and so I put this on, and honestly, the first hour of this game is so unbelievably brilliant that I was like, I cannot believe I've not played this series before. The story, the humour, the action. I didn't realise it was basically a brawler, like an old school Streets of Rage type brawler. Going back to exactly what happens in that first hour, I can't remember, but it does involve a karaoke sequence where it changes, and then they're in like on top of a mountain singing. They've got long hair all of a sudden, and then it goes back into very, very serious crime drama, and it's just the tone of it's like nothing I've ever seen. It's completely madcap that it can go from genuinely gritty, compelling Tokyo Yakuza story to crazy Japanese humour. all over the place, video game stuff, all in the same scene, and it doesn't even seem out of place. I like the fact that it's all the Japanese voiceover as well, so you don't have any of the cringy stuff with bad dubs or anything like that. But yeah, that first hour, it knocked me for six, to be honest. I wasn't expecting such brilliance, and it just kept getting more and more interesting the more I played. And then I've got to about probably 14 hours in, like I played a good amount, maybe a little bit longer. I think I'm just over halfway through the game, and it started opening up more systems, this weird like nightclub management part of it, and then there's like estate agent, real estate and all this sort of stuff, and I'm like, this is all great, but the thing I'm really enjoying the most is I'm enjoying the scraps and I'm enjoying the cutscenes because they're so good, and I can't really be fucked with the rest of it anymore. Yeah. Not that it's bad, but I'm kind of at the point where it feels like I want the game to bottleneck a little bit more and just like funnel me through a good 90 minutes of story with some great set pieces. I mean, there's some amazing boss fights. There's one in a sewer, and a guy comes on a motorbike, and it's like it's just, I don't know, it's brilliant. I guess the people who played these games before, and especially this one, know exactly what I'm saying. But yeah, it got to the point where I'm like, I want to know what happens in this story. I genuinely do, and that's rare for a game. Really, you can count on sort of probably I was going to say you can count three hands. You can count three hands how many games there are that you really care what happens in a story, or I can anyway. And this is definitely one of them. It's brilliantly compelling, twisting, great characters, amazing. The visuals are amazing, close up on the main characters. They're like all pock marks in their skin, really well facial captured, anything like that. A couple of the bad guys are fucking amazing. They're honestly some of the best bad guys ever. Mm-hmm. And yet all I want for that second half is just kind of, I could probably just watch the second half, and that's a shame. So I need to go back to it because I've invested so much time and I've enjoyed so much of it. But then again, like, I do some of the side quests and they're hilarious. Like, I for some reason got caught up being a producer for a cooking show for about 20 minutes for no reason whatsoever, and every minute of it was hilarious. And then you were faking that you were this producer, and then the director was like asking you these questions about what you should do next and on a film set, and you had to guess which one was right. And you're like, what am I doing? What is this? And then they thank you, and then you have a fight with the real director or the real producer, and then you just go back to serious Yakuza work. And there's loads of stuff like that, but it's like, you kind of want to see it all, but also I just want to get through it. I can't dedicate my life to this. Yeah. When I was so invested in the beginning, I was like, I'm playing all of these. That's what's happening. I'm playing all of these. I'm getting Kiwami 1, I'm getting Kiwami 2. I'm going to wait for the other Kiwamis to come out because they are the remakes of the original 1 and 2. I don't know if you knew that. But
no, I didn't.
Okay, so they like remade them in this engine, and they're doing that with 3 and 4. And then 5 is... someone who knows Yakuza will correct me because there's 6 as well, fuck knows. And then I don't know if you saw, they've got that new game now, it's like a spin-off that's coming out soon called Judgment. I don't know if you saw anything of that.
No idea.
Same guy, Nagoshi-san and everything like that. Almost done, looks stunning. It's like Yakuza, but also a bit more like Phoenix, right? It's like a courtroom drama as well, but done like with the amazing visuals and everything like that. But one of the people who stars in the game just got busted in real life for cocaine use, not even possession, cocaine use. And apparently in Japan, I didn't know this, if any star gets any sort of drug charge against them, like, they just basically get fucking disavowed. Wow. But like there's some musician who got caught, and they're just like, all their stuff was taken off streaming services. Like, they basically just get cancelled. Wow. And now Sega's in this position with his games. I think the game's coming out in May, and they're basically, I think they're going to have to strip this part out of the game. Like, it's gone off all their websites, everything like that. Basically, like, the game doesn't exist, just because it wasn't in possession, it wasn't trafficking. It was literally he failed a drug test for doing some coke. What a crazy country.
Yeah.
But so that's interesting. But I feel like if I chucked all other games in the bin, I could probably handle only playing the Yakuza games.
I reviewed 3 of them. I think it was 3, 4, and 5, or it was 4, 5, and 6. And I had exactly the same reaction. I was like, these are insane. They're truly, truly eccentric. And I just kind of stopped playing. I only really play first-person shooter in terms of single-player games. I don't really play single-player games so much.
Which is why we kind of stopped doing this for one of many reasons. Exactly right.
But I remember how much my mind was blown regularly. They're really, really, truly eccentric. And if I played games, I'd play them. And I do think people should try them if they're even slightly interested.
Definitely, and they're quite often, and this one particularly seems like a great jumping in point because it's the prequel, so it's like the origins of Kiryu and fucking hell, I played this game for a million hours and I've forgotten his name. Goro, I don't know, right. Forgotten. But yeah, it's their origins. I guess they're the main characters throughout the series. I don't know, but fucking wicked. But I want it to. I'm like, can I do another 14 hours of this? I can, but I got other stuff to do. Yeah, that's always the problem.
Ditto, yeah, exactly. Yeah, true that. Okay, well, my number 3 is Crackdown 3, the aforementioned Crackdown 3 on Xbox One X. I was at your place when you downloaded it on the day it came out, or the day after, and we watched you play it for half an hour, and I thought, nobody needs that. Nobody needs a carbon copy of Crackdown. And then I ended up playing it with my girlfriend because she got a deal on Game Pass, because she wanted to replay Shadow of the Tomb Raider, so we just had a go. We jumped in, and it's absolutely fantastic. If there's a list of people saying this is one of the most underrated games of the year, add me to it, because I think it's a really, really terrific game. It's a coherent game as well. It's like being in the warm embrace of something, to be honest. The appeal of it's quite unusual. What it's like is like being on a bouncy castle. You're just jubilantly bouncing around, finding fun stuff to do. And I did it on co-op. That's another thing. I think when you said you should probably, your opinion might be different if you played it with somebody. It is a brilliant co-op game, because there's hundreds upon hundreds of puzzles in it, just with regards to the orbs. Like we'd find orbs that we weren't powerful enough to get, and we'd start bouncing on each other's jumps to try and get high enough, and then they put them in really, really weird places that you have to figure out, and you're doing this while doing missions and stuff, and it's brilliant. It never coerces you. It doesn't bother you. It's a game that doesn't bother you. We bounced around having a laugh, doing stuff we were near, and we finished the campaign without even realising it. And without realising that we'd just kind of done more or less everything that there was to do. It doesn't press you, and it's not a very long game. And I don't mean it's not substantial, because it is. I reckon we probably played it for about 15 hours or so. I reckon, but
that is short for an open world game these days. I mean, Far Cry New Dawn's definitely longer than that.
Way longer than that, I'm sure. Yeah, this felt like the perfect length, and it is. It just has a. When it starts out, I think for some reason there's an issue with being able to latch onto scenery, and the essentially platforming that's part of the appeal of the game just doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel satisfying. It feels annoying and finicky. That subsides, and then you're just my girlfriend and I were bouncing around. You find orbs, you stand there, I'll stand there. Let's get that orb, and then switch places, and then there's a mission going on, and it's also this is similar to Shadow of the Tomb Raider in that it's a thoughtfully designed map. It's a memorable map visually. But there's also all of the stuff that you do is based around the map. It's not like some game developer said, put a start point there, put an end point there, that's a race. You're actually used in the environment, particularly in the rooftop races. They feel really inventive and clever. And it's just not too long. It doesn't pressure you. It's just a joy. You're jumping around, having a laugh. It's honestly what it feels like being on a bouncy castle. My girlfriend went in and I had to sign in because you need to do it in co-op. She was doing all the last couple of collectibles she wanted to get, and then she finished. She was like, "Hey, I'm done." And then I was like, I genuinely felt quite sad when I deleted it, because we had such a fun time in that world. Yeah. I honestly I reckon the next crop of people who come out who write about games, there's going to be editorials in 5 years' time by people who said, people who downloaded it having seen the critical. It was very lukewarm, the critical reaction, wasn't it? It was like 6. Yeah. Who were going to download it expecting nothing, and when it finished, I was like, that's an 8 out of 10 game. It's an 8 out of 10 game. I loved it. We were warm and fuzzy playing it.
That's nice. The only other person that I know that's played it to any length is the aforementioned David Turner, and he also really liked it. So I'm going to take the opinions of people who've played it. I don't honestly take the opinions of many reviewers anymore, because I feel like they're just lost. But they're lost in a weird world of politics and God knows, I don't even understand games writing anymore. It's absolutely madness. But will I go back to it? Don't know. But unfortunately, I've got the Fortez. I've got the Fortez hard drive. Forteza on the Xbox One X, so I can have stuff sitting on there. Which if you don't have, you can have about 2.5 games on that machine, because of the ridiculous size that they are these days. So it's always going to be there to potentially go back to. I'll keep that Game Pass subscription probably going. I don't know. It's a good service. So
if at some point someone suggests it, I reckon it would take you probably about half an hour, and then you'd be like, yeah, I want to do more of that, even if it's just in short bursts, because it doesn't. You lose nothing. You never start doing anything, and then it doesn't save it. Everything works. It's great. I was really sad to delete it, and I think it's just fucking fun. It's not as good as the first Crackdown, because that broke new ground. That was genuinely new when it came out, but it's the same kind of fun. I mean, Crackdown 2 was a horrible mess. This isn't. This is... It breathes the same air. It's on a similar pegging, I think. I loved it. Anyway,
it feels like a game that could be fun to stream while you have like a Spotify playlist going on, something like that. So,
I could totally see that, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, you just go... It's more like a chat room, but you're bouncing about and... Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to do that because it's boring, but I don't have enough wired connection. Why am I telling you that? Why am I telling anyone that? Who cares? Right, where are we now? I don't know.
That was my number 3, so I should imagine our number 2 and 1 are the same.
But there's a game that neither of us are... I've got 3 games left to talk about and only 2 slots.
Okay, why don't you guess what the one that is not on my number 1 or number 2 is?
The Division.
No, that's my number 1.
Devil May Cry.
That's my number 2. Wow.
Oh yeah, because you already you said Apex, but you just...
Okay, I think this is my fault. Is it? No, it's not. It's your fault.
It's now. I think it's my fault again.
Okay. Okay, let's just go straight into it. So, I mean, you're going to have your Apex as your number 3?
Let's do Apex now. Yeah.
Okay.
Apex Legends. Mm-hmm. To stealth launch. That ruined everything. It didn't ruin everything, but it messed up my whole everything, because suddenly there was a game that I've absolutely poured hours into that I wasn't expecting, nobody was expecting, because they fucking announced it and then it came out straight away, which is brilliant. And to be honest, I've absolutely loved... I can't say I've loved every minute of it, because Battle Royale, by definition, is an extraordinarily irritating and frustrating genre. And you have to sort of take that on the chin a little bit with any of them, don't you? That you're going to have plenty of times where you have a shit run. Yeah, you have 5 games in a row where you drop and get killed straight away. It's just the nature of the beast. It's a pain in the arse, and it can be particularly prolific in Apex because, as much as anything else, and I'm sure we're going to go into some differences on this game in a minute, but the fact that it's still forced trios. Means that if I'm playing mainly with my brother, we are relying on a third person joining us who may be brilliant, who more likely, unfortunately, if they're dropping a solo, is a fucking idiot. Right. And if somebody runs off from your crew and goes and gets themselves killed or alerts another team, that can be that. But at the same time, we've been carried to a couple of good positions by amazing players. So I hope they do introduce duos at some point, but it doesn't seem to be there anytime soon. But anyway, I'm pretty sure everybody knows what the game is. The Battle Royale, the stealth launched, the Respawn, from what I understand, had basically kept out of EA's hands, despite being owned by EA. They basically, from what I understand, people at EA hadn't even seen a final build of this game until recently, and were panicking about it and freaking out. And Vince Zampella's a gangster. He doesn't take any shit. He's like, no, it's fine. They've taken ownership for releasing Titanfall 2 at the wrong time at Respawn. I think that's just them as a PR move. If I'm reading in between the lines, I think that's them cleverly as a PR move to do that, to take any... the negativity against EA does nothing for them. It only causes them problem. So we'll take the hit on that, and then we'll... they came out and said we didn't want to announce this early because it's a game with free to play, it's loot boxes, all this sort of stuff, and it's only going to cause negative backlash. They're just aware, and they did the right thing by that. But I also think that they're acutely aware of the company that owns them is not in a good way, and this game is currently that company's saviour, because it's clearly doing extremely well, hit the 50 million player mark, etc, etc, etc. And to be honest, I absolutely love it. I think it's a fucking incredible game. The combination of hero shooter and battle royale, when it works, when you have the games that where you get either win or you get through to the end, or you pick up 4 or 5 kills, or you have those amazing shootouts. It's absolutely superb. You've got the expertise of the very, very people who created Modern Warfare, who created Call of Duty, who even created Medal of Honor back in the day. It's still mainly the same core team, and all of those understandings of how player movement should feel, how controller movement should feel, all that sort of stuff in there, plus the level of polish which we've basically not seen in any Battle Royale game at all. Straight off the bat, it was really incredible. And it's taken me a while to get my head around how it works, especially coming from Blackout. Obviously, the time to kill in Apex is way, way higher. And I think I just had a moment where I had to stop thinking about playing it like COD and start thinking about playing it more like Halo, because you have to wear down an enemy shield and then finish them off and stuff like that. I'm never going to be a particularly great player. I'll probably lose more battles than I win. But at the same time, it's so satisfying getting you a good kill in that game. It feels... The level of accuracy that it demands from you is actually more in line, I'd say, with PUBG, bizarrely, than Call of Duty or even Fortnite. There's less auto-aim. It's more demanding on the player in that respect. And there is a very steep learning curve in understanding how all the shields work, in terms of knowing exactly how much damage you're going to have to get by shooting someone for the first time and seeing what colour comes off them, knowing how much armour they've got and what you're going to have to deal with in that situation, knowing which weapon to use when and all that sort of stuff, and how important it is to utilise the game's movement to outfox players rather than taking them on necessarily one-on-one. Like, you can easily survive someone shooting you in the back once, unless it's point blank with a shotgun, spin round and come underneath, get round the top of a building using the brilliant climbing mechanics and then shooting from above. I've been killed many, many times like that, and when I started to think about the game like that, I've had much more success. I do think it's an absolute triumph, to be honest. I'm a little disappointed in the Battle Pass, which just released yesterday at time of recording. So I'm not sure if you know how Battle Passes generally works. I know you're not a Fortnite guy.
Oh, no, I played Fortnite enough to realise how it worked. Yeah,
sure. So, yeah, it's pretty much the same deal. There's 100 levels to grind throughout the season. You get a bunch of cosmetic items and some other stuff as you play through. But the stuff that you're getting so far, it doesn't seem that great. And there's no challenges. I think that's what's disappointed people in Fortnite. You know, you can be a mediocre to poor player but still work through a bunch of like slightly esoteric challenges, stuff like going find the 5 ice cream vans in the thing. That's an old one, but that's one I remember from when I was playing Fortnite a bit. Unfortunately, there's nothing like that in Apex yet, which would be good, because it can be, you know, it can be a game where you, like I say, you do drop and have 5, 6, 7 shit games in a row. So that needs to come. They introduced a new character as well, which isn't part of the Battle Pass, and I thought he was going to be part of the Battle Pass, which is slightly annoying. Now, if I play through the whole of the Battle Pass, I will have enough in-game currency to get him. So, again, you could say, okay, well, you could say he's a level 100 reward, or you're going to get enough coins anyway, so fine. But a bit disappointing there, but... I mean, for a free game, for a Battle Royale coming from one of the finest FPS studios ever... they're a game that's probably pretty much saving EA's PR department right now. I'm in love with it, to be honest. It's going to be a game that I invest a lot of time into. Unfortunately, my brother is better at these types of games than me, and he also, as much as he plays many hours of games, he doesn't play many games. So unlike us, where we're talking about, we don't have time to invest in this game because we've got to play this game, we've got to play this game, all that sort of stuff, just the way our personalities are, regardless of our jobs. He's the type of guy that played Fortnite for 18 months, and now he'll play Apex for 18 months. And he played Red Dead, and I think that was the only 2 games he played last year. So I always know that there's always going to be someone who's up for playing Apex, who's going to be able to carry me a little bit, that I'm going to be able to play with. Unfortunately, he's on a different console to what the rest of us play, being PS4 as opposed to Xbox. But I think that's helped as well, because I know that us guys, when we jumped in, we have had issues, problems. We haven't had many good games. I had a terrible run of 18 second places in a row on Xbox before finally getting a win, and then I've since gone on and got a few wins on PS4. But overall, yeah, like I say, I think it's an amazing game. I'm just very, very grateful that it came out. Like, I mean, all they're basically asking me for is my time, and I'm more than happy to give it to them.
Okay, yeah, I mean, when I was downloading Apex Legends on the day it dropped, a thought crossed my mind, not a serious thought, but a thought nonetheless. I thought, this is a Battle Royale first-person shooter by Respawn set in the Titanfall universe. Why don't I just delete every game I have on my hard drive and just play this? I can only be honest. I've never ever had a good game, and I can't put my finger on what's up with this game. I just can't. But not all of my friends, many of my friends have had the same issue. I think if we were still writing about games full time, or even if we were still doing this podcast every week, I might be able to get to the crux of what it is about the game that just doesn't sit right with me. Where basically, I've had 30 plus games, 35 games in total, I'd say, and 30 of them, I've got into a combat situation where I feel like I have the upper hand, I have decent kit, and I always lose every single time. Even if we've just landed, scramble for 2 guns, and I get into a gunfight with a guy, and I instigate combat, and I feel like I've got the upper hand, and I always lose. Again and again and again. I don't know what beats what. Obviously, this comes with time, but I just feel like I'm not getting any better. I feel like the guns aren't making any more sense. I just feel like the game in general isn't making any sense, and I can't enjoy it. I've really fought to enjoy it, and I just feel like it's just every time the same thing happens. The amount of times I've got into a situation where I'm just like, I've got purple shit, I've got a fully statted out gun, I've instigated combat, I'm nailing you, and I get done over. Sometimes in one-on-one situations, I don't understand it. There's only so many times I can go through that. I know you can have terrible runs on Blackout, for example, but you always know what's happening. I've never ever died in Blackout and not understood what's happened, and here that's all I have. And other friends of ours who, the people we predominantly played only shooters with, have had the same issues. And I wanted to mention our friend Nick, because I want to ask you about our friend Nick. We have a friend called Nick who is a fucking liability. We play shooters with him, and if I'd prepared, could have prepared a list of 10 things that he's done in the last month on shooters that we play, and it would have been high comedy. Most of the time when we're gaming, I've muted my mic, either because I'm effing and blinding at something he's done, or I'm laughing my arse off at him. For example, recently he had to turn a truck round in Blackout. He had to just reverse so we could go in a different direction. He somehow drove it off the dam at the top of the map in Blackout. I don't think that's possible. I don't know how he did it, but he did it. There was a time we were rushing to get away from the circle, and he molotoved himself to death, and then told me that it's because his children had changed the buttons, despite the fact it was our 6th or 7th game in a row, and his kids aren't allowed to play Call of Duty. Anyway, he's a guy who I reckon I could somehow prove medically that 90% of the time that he's awake, he's actually asleep. He's just he's a dozy bastard. We'll nominate him to decide where we're landing, and then we're like, Nick, where are you? Oh, sorry, I wasn't paying attention. I'm somewhere here. So anyway, he won 3 games in one day on Apex Legends, and you said, oh, God, I can't believe it. And I said, that must say something about the game. And you said, no, of course not. Do you not think that must say something about the game? Because
where does that voice come from? This was a text message conversation, so I didn't sound like that.
Sorry, I completely... Sorry, yeah, that was bad on my part. But you said, no, there's no way that this is... to me, this is a game that isn't aimed at me. And the last time Respawn aimed a game at me, it was Titanfall 2, and look where that fucking got them. So I don't blame them for it, but the fact that I'm not even understanding this game, I think, and the fact that Nick can excel at it, which is something I never thought I'd say about any game. How the hell has he got 3 wins? And you said, well, what do you think it is? Do you think it's genuinely just he got paired up with 2-3 duos that were sort of carrying him?
Definitely that. I mean, I don't know, because I played some games with Nick and he just wandered off every single time and got himself killed. Yeah. But the thing is, Nick, one-on-one, it's not like he can't play. Like, it's not like you get some people who don't play enough games and they join your team and you're like, oh God. I mean, don't get me wrong, I ain't great at shooters. I mean, the boys we play with, I'd be bottom of the list most of the time. But at the same time, I'm capable. He's in a one-on-one gunfight capable. You know, he'll win some, lose some in any of these games. He just has mental lapses a lot.
Yeah, but he's never come close without us to getting a win on Blackout. This is why I don't get it. I mean, I think whatever their plan is at Respawn, it's ingenious. But I feel like it's like with Fortnite. I have to just put it. It's still on my hard drive. I feel like I'm not going to give up on it yet, but I just feel like I have to say this isn't for me. I shouldn't try and make it for me and just leave it as it is. But I just wish I could.
It's one of those ones where, fortunately, unlike Fortnite, there isn't a brand new mechanic which is creates such a skill gap that we're never going to be able to catch up in terms of the building. Like, obviously, Fortnite's a write-off in terms of that. Whereas Apex is fundamental. Obviously, I can tell. I mean, I've seen it. I played most of those games with you, and I saw it happen over and over and over again. And it was a combination of a bad run. And I mean, me and Ollie had a game where we basically did nothing, got to the end. You have those games in every battle royale, right? Where for some reason you don't see anybody until right at the end, and then you've got a whole squad and there's one person left, and you shoot them and you win. Like, I've had that in Fortnite, I've had it in Blackout, I've had it in PUBG.
PUBG, yeah, totally.
And now I've had it in Apex. And the runs that we were having a bunch of bad runs, and also, a lot of situations where you exactly as you say. And I think it's a combination of, it is an unusually complex game in terms of what beats what, in terms of time to kill, in terms of stuff like how important headshots are, how bad a leg shot is, how small the clips are when you don't have there's a bunch of stuff that's where the experience gap. I mean, I still will lose against a more skilled fighter all the time, but at least I now don't feel like I don't know what happened, if that makes any sense. And I certainly did feel like that for a while.
That does sound kind of in line with most shooters, though. That's what I mean. It's not vastly different. That's why I'm finding it hard to actually put my finger on what it is, because there is something under the hood of that game that benefits some players and not others. It must, because I just can't figure it out. Any other shoot? I mean, the funny thing is that we played Blackout just before we started recording this podcast. Me and our friend Zeno, we played duos and we got a win. And Zeno hadn't played for a while because we had a load of bad runs. And he said, "Oh, that was brilliant, cool. Maybe this game isn't terrible." And I was like, "It's so many, it's so many factors. There's so many variables. Like you, we barely saw. There's so many things that contribute to a win or a loss that But blaming the game is not the thing to do. But with Apex, I'm just like the same thing every time.
Well, I mean, and I have seen it with you. I've seen the thing, and I think I can also see you getting frustrated and hear you getting frustrated. And I think it's one of those situations where you would be. You basically just got to do that thing where you put your head down if you wanted to, put your head down, bite down your gum shield, as they say, and eat shit in the game for 2, 3, 4 nights, probably get a couple of wins along the way, and then at least get yourself into a position where you are at the same level on that in terms of gunfights as you are in most games. And I'll say, from my point of view, you're very good at these types of games generally, in terms of the person that plays to a regular adult level that has a job and lives a normal life, as opposed to a kid that is an esports player. But do you know what I mean? That's my opinion of you. You've always been the higher end when we all play these games together, so there's no reason why you wouldn't be on this either. I just think, do you now with other games to play? And also I think it is very difficult to come from Blackout to this, because they feel so similar at some points, and then you get into the gunfights, and the gunfights are actually so different that I watched you the last time we played Apex. This isn't slight on you at all, but I watched you get in a gunfight, and you were doing exactly what I did when I first started playing it. Took a couple of hits, backed off around the corner and went to heal, which is like the exact rhythm of a Blackout gunfight, because the healing is so fast,
so quick.
But in Apex you can heal fast compared to most games, but you basically can't do that. You have to finish the gunfight, or at least get yourself into a situation, wait a beat, maybe 2 beats, go, okay, I'm good to heal. Or if you've got cover, you genuinely just can't back around the corner and heal. And I watched you do it, and I was like, that's a Blackout thing. And if you hadn't done that, you'd have probably won that gunfight. So that's why I say you need the 4 nights of eating shit in the game. Do you have the patience, energy, desire to do that? I don't know if you do. So I think you do what you do, and you just bite the bullet and go, "Isn't for me," which is fine.
Yeah, I mean, I've definitely done that, and the last time I did, I was like, "Fuck, I shouldn't be healing," and I think I tried to cancel it. You can cancel healing, can't you?
You can cancel it, but yeah, it's one of those ones where you were both you and the guy were probably both 1 to 2 bullets. From dead.
Away from death, no, I understand. That's definitely something I've done, but in terms of spending, I feel like I've spent a substantial amount of time and I've got nowhere. It's not like I have something to hang on to. It's not like I've found a gun that really feels like it fits
That's
with
fair.
me. It's not,
but also, in interim, you were also playing the game that will create bad habits in Apex, and I've gone back to Blackout and got a bunch of bad habits from Apex in Blackout now, and I had a nightmare of a time. So if you're I think they're awful to bounce between, because they're so similar yet so different moment to moment for muscle memory. So that's my thought. But I genuinely think, like, when I heard your exasperated sigh in that last game, I was like, don't force it. Like, there's plenty of, we just play something else. It's a shame. I'd love to play with everybody. I wish everyone was into it as I am, but I can handle it because I can just jump on PlayStation and play with my bros. So it's no issue.
Yeah, I'm lucky. The people that I play shooters with all have Blackout, and I still think Blackout is. I mean, I played it today. We haven't played it for weeks. I mean, it's the first we had a real break from it, but I still think that game's Blackout is perfect. So I don't see any reason to jump across. I mean, and it's also some of our other friends feel the same way as me. I kind of want us to really try. But at the same time, I said, why are we trying? We've got an amazing game in Blackout.
And that's fair. And I will say all those other games are also... all those other players are also in the same situation where they're coming directly from Blackout.
Yeah, true. Yeah, that's true. That's true. I just feel like I've taken that into account, and yet over a certain number of hours, I've gotten absolutely nowhere. So I'm going to keep it. I don't know. I don't know what I'm doing. Probably just never going to play it again.
Yeah, I mean that's fair. But my opinion is it's not something dodgy going on under the hood. It's just...
I'm not saying it's anything dodgy. I just think it's that they've tailored this to a different market. It's like, I just don't... To be honest, during the tutorial, I was like, something doesn't feel right. Something about this is wrong to me. I don't know what it is. It could be frames missing in a reload animation. I don't know what it is, but something about it was like, this doesn't feel like me. And I knew something was wrong straight away. Wrong as in not right for me. I want to get to the bottom of that, but at the same, it's on my hard drive. If somebody wants to play it, I'll join them, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
But I find it if they're going to drastically change it over the course of its life, and then I can keep jumping back in. But Blackout, as I said, is perfection. So maybe I'll just stick to that for the moment.
Yeah, I mean, why force it?
Exactly. True that.
All right, where the hell are we now?
I love the way I love everything about the game apart from that, though. I love the way they brought it out. I love the way they did it in secret. Everything about it is great.
Yeah.
My number 2 is your number 2, I believe, Devil May Cry 5?
Yeah, let's do it in that order, yeah.
Okay, all right. Do you want to go?
Yes. I actually finished it yesterday. Mm-hmm. Yeah, yesterday. Yeah, I didn't quite get to the end when I wrote about it. It's a funny one. It's a funny one, like... In terms of its structure, I mean, I'll do the quick, obviously, the proper Devil May Cry 5, coming after Devil May Cry 4, coming after what we considered our game of 2013, the DMC reboot, which got unfairly panned by morons, but anybody who's ever played it properly knows that it's brilliant. And then Devil May Cry disappeared for 5 years, and now here we are with DMC 5, kind of fanboy pleasing in that respect, back to Dante, back to Nero. And... a really weird game, like a gorgeous but very, very old school in terms of its structure, like very much PS2 in terms of its structure, which is obviously what Devil May Cry is. Literally just go into an area, it's sealed off, you fight bad guys, you move on. They don't even have any puzzles in this game, which I'm actually thankful for. Coming from the amazing like visual aesthetic level design and kind of inventiveness of DMC, it feels like a real regressive step in that regard, and also in terms of acting, cutscenes, all that sort of stuff, while a step up from the older games, and very, very good faces, all that sort of stuff, and definitely inspired in some ways by DMC. It's definitely nowhere near. I mean, it has some stuff that's humorous, it has some stuff that's kind of camp and quirky, and overall by the end of it I enjoyed the weird little tale that it told, but like the story in DMC was excellent. It felt like a sort of adult, like a young adult drama, like the kind of thing you'd see on Netflix that I wouldn't necessarily watch. Do you know what I mean? But you'd be like you could see, oh yeah, that's actually quite good. And for a game in that mold, it really was excellent. I mean, it had Alex Garland involved. You know, his hit rate is high. So in that respect, it feels like a backward step. But for me, in terms of the combat, I think it might be the best it's ever been. And that's not to dismiss DMC, because DMC is truly stunning as well, and changed the combat ever so slightly. And this goes back, 5 now goes back to being more focused on the lock-on, slightly more convoluted in terms of the dodging and stuff like that. But I found by the time that you've unlocked Dante in the game, and the level of responsiveness on Xbox One X at 4K 60, I just thought absolutely stunning the way you're sequencing in the 4 different weapons, the 4 different styles, the 4 different guns, pulling everything about, the impact of everything, just even stuff the way that the slashes appear on the enemies. Obviously the game has always had incredible combat. There's not a single, even Devil May Cry 2 is shit, but the combat against the standard enemy is still good. I think it may be the best it's ever been. But it's a tough battle between this one and DMC, and even 3, which to me is incredible, but actually a little too hard. But that's just me. So I loved it, basically, is what I'm getting to. I did love the game. I loved pretty much every moment of it, but at the same time was disappointed that this isn't DMC2. It's Devil May Cry 5, because, like I say, 2013 Game of the Year for both of us. Yeah. But, I mean, I've now restarted it on Son of Sparta mode, and straight away I was just like, get me through these cutscenes, get me through the action. They've added some cool stuff in that. It's basically New Game Plus, which is one of the rare games you get to do New Game Plus, but do it on a harder level. I don't know why more games don't do that. But like now when you kill an enemy for the first time, it takes like a cool little snapshot of the moment, and then you get like a little photo book of all of that. So there's stuff there. It feels like you're obviously supposed to be playing through the second time. But I'm skipping cutscenes, and then I'm like, can I be fucked to play V again? And that's the main problem. So DMC 5 is 3 characters. It's Nero from Devil May Cry 4, it's obviously Dante, and then this new character who you don't play that much, V. And the story reasons for his inclusion, won't go into those, but he's basically a frail little goth boy with a poetry book, and he's too weak to do anything, so he has to control a panther, a bird, and a weird like giant creature, I don't know what the fuck you call it. And he fights from afar, and he summons those things and uses them as an idea, as a concept. Brilliant. What a cool idea. Like, I don't think I'd have ever really been, even during my slightly more metal-y phase of being an 18, 16, 17-year-old, really been excited by the idea of this poetry reading idiot. But at the same time, like, it's still a kind of cool character, it's a cool idea. But unfortunately, those, compared to the rest of the game, they just feel button bashy, those levels. I was desperate. Maybe I wanted to maybe track down a video. I meant to do that, of somebody playing it well. If I felt like I was missing something, because there'd be parts where you're just hammering. It's basically the same. It's like one's a melee and one's a ballistic attack. The bird is a ballistic attack, and there are different controls you can do to make them do very specific things. But at the same time, like, they'll just get whacked by an enemy and then they're dead for a bit, and you have to go and stand next to them. And you're like, could I have dodged that? Or like, I can make my guy, I can dodge with my guy, but can I? And it's just like, why am I doing this when I could be playing as Nero, who is brilliant, and Dante, who is even better? Both of whom are very similar but have their own unique little things. Nero has the stuff where he has a severed arm, and they're replaced by all these different arms that do different things, like maybe slow down time, or create an explosion, or fire off and fire around like a rocket and stuff like that, and you're comboing that into everyone else. And then Dante, as I said, with all the different weapons and styles and everything like that. When I've got those two guys, why do I want to play as this guy? And first time through, fine. You don't play him as him that much in the 20 levels, but I just don't want to do it again. I'd quite happily chuck him out of the game and just play as the normal two guys and probably do it all the way through again. But yeah, so he was a disappointment. The structure is too retrogressive. The fact that it's not stylish in terms of its story, in terms of its narrative, in terms of its level design, as DMC is a disappointment. But combat, when you're playing as the main two, almost flawless, incredible.
Like you, I found the game extremely puzzling, because it is a PS2 game, a strange PS2 throwback. And when I started playing, I thought, this is so weird. Why are we... I think it's been terribly, terribly overrated. I like the game. I think it belongs with the other odd-numbered Devil May Cry games, in that 5 is very good, 3 is very good, 1's very good, 2 and 4 are pretty much fucking awful. But why... What is the consensus still that DMC was a bad game? Because there were some people I know there were some people who had issues with the way Dante was portrayed, or some fucking God knows what shit. But wasn't there some people who said that it was actually a bad game? No one ever said that, surely.
I think there was a problem when it first came out, that it was 30 instead of 60, and there was no lock on. So and I think real hardcore DMC heads who get the triple S's or whatever, and they're really into the frames and everything like that, we're picking holes in it that won't matter to anybody else, even people who play those games well. But then since then, the remastered versions of DMC are 60, and you have the lock on, and they even they did stuff to placate those people while still having all of the incredible inventiveness and the pushing, the pulling, all the different weapons, But generally speaking, those who know. It's consensus is only among morons.
Okay, yeah, that's what I figured. But because I don't understand playing this PS2 game, I thought, Ninja Theory dragged that series into the modern day. I mean, they made it modern because playing this, you just Dante's jump. It feels like you've got a perspex tube around you, and you're perpetually bumping into an invisible. It's like you're bumping into an invisible wall the whole time.
Yeah,
there are invisible walls all over it. You can't explore, go anywhere. There's no elasticity. The world's like, it's a straight line. What constitutes platforming is looking at a thing and pressing X. When there was all that great platforming in DMC, you had so much more freedom and you were just free to do so much more stuff. It feels like a really nice looking PS2 game, and I just kind of found that puzzling as much as I enjoyed it. I mean, the real, I think a terrible problem with this game, DMC was so memorable. I can picture so much from that game now. Boss battles, levels, the way that it just stuck in my head. Admittedly, I played it multiple times. This is a visually as startling as it looks, because I mean the boss battles in particular, it does spectacle amazingly to the point where it crashed my X a couple of times. But the way that, I mean, you're basically the design of the world for the last half, you're basically running around in some mocked up version of hell, which is made of ash and fire, and it's the same fucking.
Well, you're just
level.
inside a tree.
A tree.
You spend 70% of the game inside a fucking tree. And it's like, the combat's so good that I was like, oh, okay, well, I'll just go in this room and I'll just concentrate on the enemies. I don't really get it. Doesn't matter. Yeah. But it's annoying as well, because you basically start the game in London, and it actually really captures. Just the visuals of it capture, like, you're kind of basically in Covent Garden at one point, basically in Shoreditch at another point. And I was like, this is kind of cool. It's grey. It felt like London. It didn't, in terms of vibrancy or character or anything like that. It was dead. But just how it looked was, they captured the look of London real nicely. I didn't even know why it was set there, but I was like, this is cool. And then, then you're in just a fucking tree. Like, literally, like you say, just walking in a straight line.
Yeah, it's that I think that's, it wasn't a deal breaker, but I just thought, why would you do that? Again, it's another, I couldn't help but compare it to DMC, because that was such an incredible looking game and so memorable. This ambles on for way too long. This game's a little bit too long. They could have lopped an hour out, because it's just the same thing. It's samey, and then it stops. They could have chopped an hour off just for this, but then time is content to most people. So the boss battles, I think, are stunning, but they're visually inventive rather than again, the bosses in DMC were so inventively designed that in this they're solidly good, but people I've read a couple of reviews, and they're talking about this like it's the apex of the series, and I don't buy that. How could you think that? The bosses are really good and stunning. I mean, my X, like I said, crashed a couple of times, and when it's the camera's moving around and you're moving around on scene, it's like, wow, look at it. I mean, it looks absolutely stunning, but they weren't particularly inventive just to do battle with. And one thing, I mean, we just had, you had a pop at Far Cry for having microtransactions in it. There's microtransactions in this. I think when it launched, I reckon they dropped this new system into it, whereby every time you log in, they give you a respawn, like a gold jewel, so that you can use that if you die. Because towards the end, there's like a boss rush at the end. The bosses that lead up to the end, a lot of them have a move that will probably knock half of your health off. But they have several of them, and they're hard to predict. So by the time I'd learned what all of these bosses' attacks were, I died a few times. If you're somebody who's young and you haven't played loads of these games, you're probably going to die a lot more, and you might be forced to pay money. And I think that's inexcusable. I know what you mean about if it's to keep a studio afloat, but then again, it's my fucking £40 game cannot be asking me for money.
60.
Admittedly, as well. I mean, RIP, but I mean, so that was bothersome. But yeah, it went on too long. It was the lack of visual invention was really a problem towards the end. The combat, I agree with you, was great. And when I can't remember whether it was Dante, he had the motorcycles. Abs. I mean, just so much fun to jump between those. The combat is spectacular. I don't think it's a patch on DMC, but then again, I don't think any aspect of this game is a patch on DMC. And yet, I think it's sort of trouncing it in terms of like. Like a Metacritic score or something like that. But I like it. Like you said, the V character. If you give a kid who's never held a control pad before a control pad, what they'll do is basically with both hands go from a clenched fist to a open palm. So you've got the pad in your hand. You're just kind of going like that. That's what I was doing. I was doing that. I mean, I was just like this. Like you, I thought, is there some depth to this that I'm not realizing? I don't think there is. Luckily, it's not the whole game. But this is a good game. I didn't want to evoke DMC too much, but I just found it a little bit puzzling. It's a PS2 throwback, and that's all fine, but I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, there's moments like you with there's I won't spoil the boss battles towards the end, but there is the battle towards the end. He does a move where like the screen shatters and you're kind of in this 3D broken screen. It's real. I mean, like, wow, I'd love more of this.
More of it.
Yeah, this is cool. Whereas you've got throwaway stuff in DMC, where you go into that skyscraper and every time that talks, it moves. Just fades into the blueprints with of the plan that you guys have devised and moved back. Yeah. And that's like there's stuff way more inventive in that game than that. But that's just one. That was basically throwaway compared to like the Fox News-esque boss and the club scene and all the other stuff.
Even the fairground at the very beginning.
Yeah. When you go into your old house and then you go into the paintings and everything like that. Yeah, I actually put on DMC as well just to have a go because they've got it. That's on Game Pass. So and it's still obviously, it still holds up, but it's still held up compared to. But it just feels the combat feels a little lighter. I did like the there's a bit of weight to the combat in DMC5 when you strike things. It felt that there's a little bit more impact. I don't know what it is. It was probably a tiny little visual thing, but again. Yeah, love the combat. The Bloody Palace mode is dropping in April to just like fight. So I'm definitely going to do that. Whether or not I'll go through the whole game again, I can't do those V levels again, especially if they're hard. I don't know.
I liked it. I don't want to seem like I was down on it. I just found it slightly strange that it is a step backwards, and
it is. There's no doubt about it. It is a step backwards.
But that's made so many people exorbitantly happy. That's great. But I thought. Yeah, PS2 game.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, all right. Well, our number ones are the same.
I believe.
Have you got any more that you haven't got to yet?
No. Okay. Although I think I've left some stuff off.
Okay, I probably have as well. But then again, this is the games of the 2 weeks or whatever, or 3 weeks, or a month. I mean, who knows at this point? But our number one is a game we've been playing for the last week at least. The Division 2.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we've been playing this fairly solidly since when? About this time last week, wasn't it?
It was like 2 days before it came out, 3 days before it came out. Yeah.
So I mean, what are you making of it?
I'm really enjoying it, to be honest. More than I thought I would be. I didn't get onto any of the betas or anything like that, and I thought, especially after playing Anthem, I was like, I think that I'm just done with games like this. I can't really be asked. Like, I really enjoyed the Division 2. Sorry, I really enjoyed the Division. Obviously, loved Destiny. Played a good amount of Destiny 2 as well. And I was just like, I don't know if I've got it in me to do another loop shooter. I just really don't. But then. Yeah, pretty quickly in Division 2, I was impressed by how the combat feels. I was impressed by how it looks, despite some pop-in. Then I was impressed by how the combat feels and some of the changes that they've made. And I'm sure we'll talk about the positives and negatives of that in a minute. But one of the problems with the first game was that it did occasionally feel like just constant wars of attrition against bosses with extremely long health bars. Mm-hmm. And this game feels a bit more snappy. In terms of like the red normal enemies, almost feel like standard shooter enemies. They don't take too many bullets. A headshot will a few headshots will take them down, and they don't feel as weird as shooting the enemies in the first game. They have far more reactive animations and things like that. And I was like, it feels very nice to just pop up and shoot things. And given that I've played so many first-person shooters recently, or third-person, moving around shooters, it's actually quite refreshing to play a cover shooter. There was a time where everything was a cover shooter, and it got a bit boring, but I haven't really played one in ages. So it actually feels a little bit fresh in that respect. And then when I was jumping on with you, and we're fortunate that there's a bunch of us that are playing it, the level of difficulty straight away, when it's working well and it feels like it's balanced well, I'm finding it very enjoyable. Tempts, enemies carry a lot of threat, and the sort of size of the story missions it really feels like a kind of epic thing to get through them. A lot of coordination, a lot of conversation, and then there's even the amount of side content in there is really quite impressive, but it doesn't feel necessarily like it's drowning in endless boring shit to do. I'm sure you could make it that if you wanted to, but it feels like even the smaller side missions, as they're actually called in the game, feel like main missions in the other loot shooters. Like they feel more complete, denser than the main missions that I played in Anthem. So credit must go to Massive and the 19 other Ubisoft studios that made this game. But downsides, obviously the loot loop is an issue with all of these games, and you know how much that's going to appeal to me beyond finishing and getting to top level. I don't know yet. Haven't got to end game yet, so can't really comment on that. And I think we both had a problem with enemies spawning behind us, and the fact that perhaps they've slightly misjudged the changing the bullet sponge enemies to spamming you from behind with enemies, which seems to be more of a problem in open area sections rather than in the levels themselves. I found in the levels themselves I'm not having that happen to us so much, but we had it a few times where we'd start one of those in-game activities almost as something to do on the way to a level, and then it turns into an absolute clusterfuck, and there's a million guys that are literally spawning in behind us, and it's just not enjoyable at all to be hammered in that respect, and then trying to get each other up, and we can't do that. So it's not something that's really caused me too much grief, but at the same time, it's one of those ones. It's like, is this just going to keep getting worse and worse, or is there some little bug in there that just needs to be fixed, or is this just a problem with these particular activities and not in the main story missions? Don't know yet, but overall, pleasantly surprised. Didn't think I was going to enjoy it as much as I have. Kind of wish it was slightly less drab, but that's the Division for you. It just is.
Yeah.
But definitely going to be getting through to top level, and interested in seeing what the end game holds. Again, I can't see it doing. I don't think any game other than the first Destiny will ever hold my attention in this world, this loot shoot grind, whatever the fuck you want to call it, world. As much as that did, that just was a sort of, even just the time of my life, the people I was playing with, all the sort of stuff. I don't know if any game will hold my attention that much, but I got to top level and did a bit of end game in the first one. I can see that happening again here.
Yeah, I mean, I can definitely see that happening. It's actually caught me, recording this podcast is actually a very funny point, because until this time yesterday, or maybe a bit earlier, I was prepared to be overwhelmingly negative about this game. But I had a sesh last night with a friend of ours, and I just seem to get to the right spot where I feel powerful enough, I've got the right equipment, and combat feels challenging and inventive, whereas before, everything felt kind of wrong. You touched upon it. The developer said we didn't want bullet sponge enemies, but what this means is that you'll go into almost every situation. You'll instigate combat. A couple of guys will stay put. 2 guys on each side will flank round, and so you have to be concerned about them. And then randomly, people will come. Enemies will appear from behind you. This is okay if there's 4 of you, or even 3 of you, with one of you looking forward and then looking after the number of people that come from behind you is minimal anyway, so you can deal with it as a 3. But when you and I were doing it, it just was overwhelmingly frustrating. I just thought, this is just the same thing over and over again. This isn't a fix; it's another problem. We were getting into combat, and then you see 2, and then you try and look after 3 quadrants with 2 people, and you couldn't, and we died more than we probably should have done. So again, I do think it became almost like a spoof at points, where you go into a situation that would happen, you'd survive it, and then you're in the same space, and then you hear something on comms, and then you have to do the exact same combat situation from the other direction. And I was actually getting very, very. I mean, it is kind of funny, the opening few missions of that game, because it's just the same thing. Press a button. The same combat situation, 2 guys on the side, 2 at the front, another 2 guys at the side, 2 in the front. It just keeps repeating itself. I was kind of surprised at how well received this game has been, at this point anyway, because I just thought, this is the same thing again. And then I don't know what's happened, but we did the story mission we did last night was really, really unique. It wasn't like the others. There was a lot more to it. It was a lot more dramatic, a lot more varied. And I felt like we were on a knife's edge of losing, but at the same time doing damage as well.
So you've done a story mission without me?
But when we jump into your game, we can do it again. That's the beauty of it.
I feel like my wife's just started a Netflix show without me.
We said this, but we said but we can jump into your game tomorrow, for example, and then you can do that mission. We can do it again. So I've got
to do it tomorrow. I've got to work around your schedule. Unbelievable.
Well, I mean, you can do it. You can try it solos if you want. But yeah, I don't really know what's happened. I don't think it's as simple as the fact that I've gotten better gear, because I still think the issues that I've raised are a problem. But that mission we did yesterday, that kind of stuff didn't happen. The enemies were doing more varied things. It didn't seem like it was the same stuff over and over again. So I don't know where I am with it at the moment. At the beginning, they kept pulling stunts, and I thought, this is the most lame shit. Like, they were so desperate to try and give it the illusion of freshness. As soon as I saw electromagnetic pulses floating through the air, I thought, oh, great. This is a mission where we can't use our shit. And lo and behold, it was. I thought, that's just don't do fucking crap like that. But to be fair, even before I did the mission last night, the story missions got a little bit better. There's the one in the planetarium.
Yeah.
It's only nice scenery. There's the Vietnam music exhibit. Museum exhibit. But like it's like in a museum, and it's like a Vietnam, and it's got a functioning LMG turret, which, you know, I know it's America and everything, but what the fuck's that doing in a museum? I don't know where I am. It's just, like I said, I had it all set out how I was going to give this game some stick. And one thing I will say, I haven't read any of the reviews that have been published, but I read through like the review in progresses that were written by the major sites over the weekend. A lot of them were just saying outright, you've got to give it some kudos because it works, and that's I mean, it's kind of true, because as I say, it's a sad state of affairs. But when you can, Anthem still, my friends who love that game were just like, they need to fix X, Y, Z, and the Division. Yeah, it does work, but there was also some variation in all of the review in progresses that I read. Reviews in progress, I should say. Fucking hell. There's so much to do. And I think you should avoid that term unless you're a PR, because unless you're prepared to go into detail about what constitutes so much, there is no variety in this game. There is no variety whatsoever. You are in cover shooting people. Even in an Assassin's Creed or any kind of sandbox, there's a multitude of different things to do. You're only shooting people in cover. Again, I don't know how much of a problem that's going to be. It was more of a problem yesterday than it is today, weirdly. So like I said, I'm a bit frazzled because I don't really know how to put this into words, but I'm going to keep playing it. I will almost certainly get stuck into the end game stuff because I feel like it's starting to open up, but I don't know what that's down to. So yeah, I don't know. I like it more than I did yesterday, and I don't know why. One thing I will say, this is the most poorly written game, the most poorly written AAA game in the last decade. That feels a bit strong, but I can't think of one worse.
I mean, I'm just trying. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Like DMC5, compared to DMC, night and day, but still,
it has character.
Pisses on this. It's even bad. It's bad for a Clancy game. It's way worse than the first one.
It's even just lazy. Like when you're, I mean, it's another apocalyptic scenario. Obviously, that's boring in itself. But the lack of colour, the lack of, like, how did we get here? The game starts and it's like, there's a cutscene. We used to drink cappuccino and use the internet. Now we're fucked. I'm like, yeah, but I mean, there's got to be more than this. And you and I suppose most people who play it, this will also be the first audio clip that they find. There's collectibles, and when you collect them, you know, it's pioneered by BioShock. In BioShock, amazing little bits of acting, bits of dialogue, bits of story, bits of atmosphere that you know the world was created in essence through those things. The first one we picked up, which, like I said, I think is the one that most people will find, is like an improvised amateur dramatic. I don't even know how you describe it. It depicts a mugging. Give me your money. No. You should have given me your money. Someone was obviously stabbed at some point, and that's what. I mean, that doesn't give colour to the world. It doesn't illustrate what happened. It's nothing. Yeah. There needs to be a word for whatever is beneath cliches, because this only deals on whatever that word is. They're not cliches. They're things that are so like, is that it? You can't think it's
definitely worse than the first one was, right? I was just sure,
by a mile. The first one was pretty unmemorable, but it had stuff in it. It had some sense of coherence. This, honestly, it feels like it was written by a child or somebody who, maybe it was written by somebody who and it was translated in a very basic fashion. I don't know. It's so bad and so. I mean, all of the things that you could possibly look for in any piece of writing is not in it.
Yeah. Maybe they just did it at the end. Nobody fucking listens to this anyway, but we've got to do it because it's Clancy and Ubisoft. We'll do it at the end. Let's get everything else right. It does feel, I mean, it's awful, but you don't even hear 90% of it. So they're right to put no effort in. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, I mean, you do just start zoning out, but just I'm stunned that the acting as well. There's another one we found where someone gets pushed off a balcony or something, and it's comically bad. And there's another one where someone's saying, this guy's got the virus, leave him. No, I'm not leaving my friend. You're going to get the virus too. And I was like, what? I don't know what this is. If this is translated from scripts written by kids in Zimbabwe and this is going to buy them a school, fantastic. Anything else Anything else is just not acceptable because it's terrible. But then again, who plays a game like this for the story? I understand. I don't.
If it's trade off between this or the fucking fact I can join you and it works and plays nice, then all day. But yeah, no positives. Yeah. I saw some people are getting offended because people get offended. That's what I like to do about that line in the beginning where it's like some people didn't survive, but some people had guns or something, as if it's some pro gun. I mean, it's a Clancy game, so sort of by definition. The game is by definition a pro gun game anyway. But yes. I mean, the implication that whoever wrote this, them, they, whoever, have put any thought whatsoever into it is a joke. Well, this is it. It's like not everything has to be a statement because some things don't have the power. I mean, it's too dumb. You can't say anything because it's too dumb. It doesn't have any. It's just like listening to a fucking raving moron in the street. And well, actually, I'm not too sure about his.
You're making it sound too good. Like, I mean, I like dumb things. I like irreverent things. I like things that. This is
right. It's not dumb. It's just like a spreadsheet wrote it itself.
Yeah, and it's so basic that, like I said, there has to be a word for what's beneath cliches. These aren't cliches. This is so inconsequential that it just vaporizes. It's nothing. There's no colour to the world. Why are we here? What's happening? Who's this? Who's in charge? Why is this happening? Honestly, it is spectacularly bad in terms of writing, but who gives a fuck? Yeah. I'm going to keep playing it, and I'm curious as to how I've gone from feeling like it was a monotonous grind already to now feeling kind of excited about where it's going to go.
Are you sighing less? Because you were sighing a lot when we played it the other day.
That was because I was absurdly hungover and I was literally lying down under a duvet. So I was kind of half nodding off. I wasn't going. I wasn't partially nodding off. But yeah, no, it's a shame. If we did this show every week, we could keep people updated, but we don't. So that's the end of that.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that is the end of that.
Yeah.
There you go.
Okay, 20 games in 40 minutes.
Yeah, we did it. First time ever.
Yeah.
All right, well, that was a nice surprise, wasn't it? I don't know how. I can't remember how to end it.
No, neither can I. It's social media stuff, I should imagine, which I suppose you can pimp your show, I guess.
Oh, yeah, you know me. I'm the guy from Rock Reacts and my own channel and other stuff. So go and follow that shit. That's about that. John Denton on Twitter. I mean, you probably know all that stuff if you're listening to this.
Exactly.
But, all good. Come and hang out.
All right. Well, thanks for listening to this. We'll see you again, or will we? Probably not, but who knows? Ciao, Bella.
Ciao. Ragazzi.
First, keep your goddamn head down. Look at those idiots. They have no idea what's coming. That's the fucking idea. Get your fucking head down. What are we waiting for? They're not even armed. This is gonna be a fucking piñata party. If you're expecting candy, you're in for some disappointment. The candy isn't the fun part. The fun part is seeing it fly everywhere when you whack the shit out of the piñata. I don't think I'm gonna be too disappointed.